title is Hybrid Renewable Energy Sources, the Way Forward. And if I wish to begin this, why all of a sudden the renewable energy, let's say in the couple of, maybe in the recent 2 decades or so, maybe the third decade we've entered in, we have laid focus on renewable energy all over the globe. So why suddenly such a focus on? What is the need for? Why it was not the focus earlier when we were using the conventional sources of energy like oil or maybe like coal and gas, etc. And now we have started talking of renewable energy, and there's a whole lot of focus of all governments around the globe, and there's like steep increase in the installations of renewable energy sources. So the reason behind is sustainability, right? The word sustainable is important, and not only in terms of energy, but also in terms of everything. In a way, whether we talk of the resources other than energy, whether we talk of the natural resources, we talk of our, the very lifestyle that we live daily on our daily routine. So it should be sustainable. So the idea is to coexist with nature, to sustain for all the times to come, without causing any adverse impact onto the nature. So we have something what is called as the Sustainable Development Goals. I think some of you might have heard of, maybe all of you might have heard of. There are these 17 Sustainable Development Goals formulated by United Nations. In 2015, the United Nations adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and they are targeted to be achieved by 2030, although just 8 years down the line. And we have not achieved, at the pace where it should have been. So may not be by 2030, but then at least maybe another 5, 7, 10 years down the line, if we are able to achieve these goals, the life on this planet is going to be really, really wonderful, going to be really sustainable in all terms, and it's going to be a beautiful life. So Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them, 2015 by United Nations. And these goals have the power to create a better world for all of us. When we say better world by 2030, if not by 2030, maybe a few years down, by ending poverty, fighting inequality, and addressing the urgency of climate change, right? So the need was felt, why the climate is changing, who is responsible for? I think except the human beings, the so-called intelligent human beings, no other biological species on this planet has done any, I think, damage to the planet. So we only are responsible. We have created certain situation whereby the climate is changing, and we are now worried, we are now concerned, we are really trying and keeping this as our priority to reverse the climate change trend, or to see to it that there's no further damage done to the climate, right? So these goals, one of those goals is going to be around energy, and other goals are also around few other things, maybe around education, maybe quality of food, maybe some other things like that. But then energy is also one of the important focus there in these goals. So guided by these goals, it is now up to all of us, the governments, the businesses, the civil society, and the general public at large, to work together to build a better future for everyone. And we should all try and see that. When we came on this planet, we had certain climatic conditions, we had certain, cosmic setup, or maybe the setup on this planet, or the quality of life, or quality of whatever, natural resources around us. So when we came on this planet, and when we're going to leave this planet, so can we think around that, okay, can we leave, when we leave, we should leave the planet maybe better than what we found when we came on this planet, right? So we should try and use all the resources. We should try and see that we do conduct our daily activities in a way that are not doing any damage to the planet, to the nature. we should be caring to nature as well. We are so compassionate, and we should be to maybe to our own kids, right, to our family. So we should also be compassionate. We should also be caring, not only to our family and maybe society and maybe a state and a nation and maybe globe as a whole, but we should also be caring to nature, which is very, very essential. And if we do take care of nature, nature will definitely take care of us. And otherwise, unfortunately, if the hard reality is that until now, if we see, we've been doing kind of violence against nature. We've been making use of the resources little too much, not need based but greed based in a way, right? Otherwise, the necessities of life, if you see, are really, really very few. Necessities, if you say, are really very few. Rest, everything is a kind of clutter around us. We can make so many things. We can buy and purchase and this and that, which are not really the necessity. It is just maybe, you call it maybe lifestyle. So that leads to the excess use of the resources, excess exploitation of the resources, and because of that, all these adverse impacts of climate change, global warming, and all these things. And that's why the need for all these sustainable development goals. So we the human beings, intelligent human beings, create problems for us first. Then we try and find solutions. We try and conduct workshops. We try and do conferences. We try and organize FDPs. We try and do this and this and that to solve those problems. So in the first place, if we can be a little conscious of the fact that when we are here on this planet, we try and use the resources, whatever, not only energy but any other resource as well, even food, we talk of, as per our needs, not as per our greed. Right? So the role of engineers, by and large, I think all participants must be around engineering background. So that's why the role of engineers in achieving these sustainable development goals is very, very vital, very, very important. The intervention or penetration of technology, right, into our lives is going to help us achieve these goals. And we are the technology developers, inventors. So we as engineers have a role to play in these as the achievement of these sustainable development goals. Now, goal number 7 is something that talks about affordable and clean energy. Can we target this, to be achieved by 2030, that every human being on this planet has access to clean energy, and that too, which is affordable, right? Not only it should be clean, but it should be affordable to the masses, to almost everyone and anyone. So affordable and clean energy is goal number 7 out of those 17 sustainable development goals. And if you see, energy is central to nearly every major challenge and opportunity. Energy we need day in and day out. Energy we need, every hour in a way, every moment, in fact. Right? When we are connected, let's say through this online platform, we are using energy. When you're using our cell phones, we are using energy. So anything and everything that we do nowadays in our life doesn't go without the use of energy, and that too, the most comfortable form of energy is electrical energy. So and there are other forms also. We use the energy in terms of heat, in terms of gas, etc. But the most convenient and comfortable form of usage of energy is through electrical energy. If you see the use only energy efficient appliances and light bulbs, that's one of the idea just suggested. And 3 billion people still lack clean cooking fuels and technologies, right? So that is the gravity of the situation. That's the dark side of it. But you have a goal, affordable and clean energy. People around the globe are working. We have the focus on renewable energy, and if we talk of the Solar Alliance, we are in fact the major player as a country in India. When it was signed in Paris, in France, and we have the headquarters of this International Solar Alliance there in India. So that was the goal I thought I should share with you, just to set up the context and just to set up the need and urgency and the genesis and basis behind the move. Although before 2015 this push for renewable energy was there, and there were some international summits taking place and some decisions taking place, and then there was this SDGs formulated to be very specific. So if you talk of renewable energy, what is renewable energy? The energy that provides highest environmental benefit and includes power produced by solar, wind, geothermal heat, biogas, low impact hydroelectric, and certain eligible biomass sources, tides, etc. So those sources that are renewed by nature, right, at a pace which is higher than the pace at which those sources are consumed. So the energy that is coming through maybe solar, wind, geothermal, etc., tides, etc., is what is termed as the renewable energy, and which is environmental friendly. These energy sources are renewable and readily available all over the world, including in rural and remote areas as well. That we all understand, right? There is all the sun is available all across. Wind is, blowing all over the surface. There are tides somewhere. So we have this energy available in a way all over. So the aim is to renewable energy. The aim is to improve the overall environmental profile of energy, right? The energy that we produce, the energy that we use, is that environmental friendly, right? So to improve the overall environmental profile of the energy, we try and go in for renewable energy. Then why renewable energy? The question is that number one reason, depleting fossil fuels. When we talk of fossil fuels, we talk of coal, we talk of oil, we talk of natural gas, etc. So these fuels, they are limited, right? They have a limited stock underneath. So there'll be a time when these sources will not be available, right? If you talk of maybe oil, maybe 100 years down the line, maybe 150 years, whatever the time limit we do have, if we keep using these fossil fuels at the pace at which we're using now, I think 50 or 100 years down the line, we'll not be having these sources. Then what will happen? Where from shall we meet our energy needs? That's a question. So depleting fossil fuels is one of the important reasons for for thinking around some other alternatives. And one of the important alternatives was renewable energy. Concern for environment, another important reason. And to me, I think this is rather reason number one. Concern for environment, because these fossil fuels, they are damaging the environment. They are creating this so-called climate change. They are creating global warming because of the burning of these fossil fuels, release of greenhouse gases, resulting in global warming and climate change. So concern for environment, the adverse impact of these fossil fuels on environment is one of the important reasons to go in for renewable energy, right? Then concern for sustainability, that in a way is coupled with the first point itself. Sustainability, are these sources sustainable for all the times to come? Sustainability means basically, whatever resources that you do have, or the facilities or whatever in terms of talking about, right? You're using the facilities or resources for the present generation. So will those resources be available to the next generations to come, right? In the same amount, same number, with same quality. So sustainability of the energy resources, another important reason. All right, the central message, yes, it is sustainability. Okay, and you'll be sustainable only when it is not doing any damage to the environment, to the nature, or else might be if you keep on damaging, the nature, the environment, there'll be a time when the nature in itself will, take revenge, and maybe will not be having kind of resources that we're having, or maybe kind of life that we're having. So sustainability, when we refer to this meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs, right? We need to think around that we, should not compromise the ability of the future generations. We shouldn't live on the energy. We shouldn't consume, their part of the energy in a way, right? The energy or the resources that belong to our future generations, if we are consuming those resources right at this point in time, that's kind of crime we are doing to the future generation, right? We are using their share of it, and the share of those species or children, who are not even taken birth until now. So sustainability is a central message to go in for renewable energy. Then challenges concerning energy, right? What are the challenges concerning energy, right? Where will the energy we need come from? Okay, and the need for energy is increasing day by day, exponentially rather. So where will that energy come from? How much will it cost? It should be affordable to the masses, right? So if it's pretty costly, then also there's an issue. So how much will it cost? That's a challenge. Will there be enough to sustain a rapidly expanding world where the energy demand is exponentially rising? Will that energy be sustained be enough, to meet out the needs of the growing needs in a way of the world? That's a question. And can it be harnessed without the least amount of harm to the environment? Can the energy be harnessed with the least amount of harm to the environment? That's very important, right? So all these challenges, all these issues we need to address. Some facts for you. Today, the major portion of energy demand is met by using conventional sources or fossil fuels. Even today, major chunk of energy is coming through conventional sources or fossil fuels primarily. But these conventional sources have their life. As we said, they do have a definite life. Okay, there'll be a time when these sources will not be available if we keep on using this. But I believe, and I'm very hopeful, very positive, that we'll be kind of we'll stop using these fossil fuels, even though we'll be having sufficient reserves still available with us. Maybe we'll not be using this at the most 20-30 years down the line, say by 2050. Ideal situation, I expect the way there's this push for renewable energy, and every year the addition of renewable energy capacity that is taking place, going by that statistics, going by that data, I think 30 years at the most down the line, we'll be having this entire world powered through renewables. And when that will be the situation, obviously we'll not be using these fossil fuels, right? So, and even otherwise, if you think that yes, these sources, they do have a life, these sources cause adverse impact, negative impact on the environment by way of greenhouse gas emissions, primarily CO2. Carbon dioxide is the major portion of the total greenhouse gases. So they do release, when they're burnt, the fossil fuels, they do release the greenhouse gases, and one of the important constituents of greenhouse gases, and the sizable portion of that is only CO2. Okay, continuing with the most abundant greenhouse gas, accounting for about 2/3 of greenhouse gases, is carbon dioxide, CO2. Almost 75-76% of the total greenhouse gas, gases is your CO2 alone. Other greenhouse gases also they are there, and that includes methane. If you talk of CH4, methane, that's next in the proportion, right? Which comes from landfills, coal mines, agriculture, and oil and natural gas operations. These are some of the sources for methane. So that's another important greenhouse gases. Nitrous oxide, N2O, which comes from using the nitrogen fertilizers that we use in our agriculture sector, and certain industrial and waste management processes, and burning fossil fuels. So these are the sources for nitrous oxide gas. Then high global warming potential gases, GWP, high global warming potential gases, which are human-made industrial gases, which are not naturally occurring. Right. So these are the naturally occurring gases: CO2, CH4, N2O. But then we have high global warming potential gases, and these includes, and that is the cause of concern, right? Hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, perfluorocarbons, PFCs, sulfur hexafluoride, SF6, and nitrogen trifluoride. So these are some of those gases that we have made, right, the artificial gases in a way we can say for industrial purposes, and these are the ones that are causing the most damage to the environment. The potential that these gases hold for doing damage to the environment is much, much more than the naturally occurring greenhouse gases, right? Maybe 100 to 1,000 times more dangerous these gases are in terms of damage to the environment compared to these natural gases. So we need to be limiting these gases, for whatever purposes we are using, industrial purposes, we are using these gases, we need to look out for the alternatives. All right, so these gases in that sense are very dangerous. Continuing with, if you see how greenhouse gases warm our planet. Okay, that's what I was talking about. The global warming potential of human-generated greenhouse gases is a measure of how much heat each gas traps in the atmosphere relative to carbon dioxide. So if you take carbon dioxide as one unit, for instance, 1 unit of carbon dioxide gas does certain damage to the environment, then the 1 unit of methane holds the potential of doing 25 times more damage to the environment compared to carbon dioxide gas. So in a way, the same unit, 1 unit of methane will do 25 times more damage. And if we talk of nitrous oxide, that is 300, just 1 unit itself compared to carbon dioxide gas is capable of doing 300 times more damage to the environment. And if we talk of the fluorinated gases, right, the ones that we discussed, the human-made gases, they do hold the potential of damaging environment to the tune of 1,000 to 10,000 times. Just the same 1 unit of carbon, whatever the damage 1 unit of carbon does, compared to that, relative to that, 1 unit of these fluorinated gases can cause a damage of 1,000 to 10,000 times. All right, 1,000 to 10,000 times. And if you see on the right hand side figure, the carbon dioxide is 76%, so that's the major share of the greenhouse gases is in the form of carbon dioxide gas. Next up is methane, which is 16%, then nitrous oxide 6%, and fluorinated gases 2%. And this 2%, though the percentage is just 2%, but if you look at this damage potential they do hold, so these even 2% may be really, really very dangerous. So we need to limit this to the extent that if we can, we cannot use this at all, so make it zero. So that will be really good. But if you can bring it down to whatever extent, that will be really, really good. Greenhouse gases emission by country, if you look at, then it's the China which is accounting for 30%. So 30% of the total greenhouse gas emissions that's coming from China. United States is next up, that's 15% of it. European Union, the 28 countries put together, is something around 9%, and India 7%. Yeah, that's, we are also growing economy, so because of that, even we do contribute to this greenhouse gases too. The Russian Federation is something around 5%, in Japan 4%, and all other countries put together is 30%. So that's the greenhouse gas emission by country. World greenhouse gases emission, if you see, this is CO2 primarily, unit tons of CO2, right? So the more darker the color, the more greenhouse gases it is emitting in a way. So that's just the through map it can be seen. Greenhouse gases emission by sector, which sector is contributing how much. So if we look at this sector, we have the energy sector, which is contributing to almost 68.7%. So it is the energy sector that includes your fugitive emissions, transportation, other fuel combustions, manufacturing, construction, electricity, heat, etc. So all this put together is close to say 70%. Then we have the agriculture sectors, which is contributing approximately 20%. Then industrial processes, some 6%. Land use, change in forestry, etc., some 3.8%, and waste is something around 1.9%. So that's the sector-wise greenhouse gas emissions. Just the statistics for you to kind of appreciate. effects of greenhouse gases we talk of. That is climate change. All of us are worried and concerned. We're talking about, the world community is talking about climate change, and not only talking about, but having these summits, annual summits, and try to take concrete actions, and making the countries responsible, to take those actions. And so that's the importance, the focus. Global warming, yes, it is, and these gases are resulting in global warming. The temperature, average temperature over a period of, let's say, 5 years or maybe 10 years of the Earth's surface, that increases by some 0.5% or something like 0.5 degrees Celsius or so. Adverse impact on ecology, even the ecology is getting changed. The biodiversity is getting changed, is getting affected. So that's also one of the important negative effect of greenhouse gases. And there could be some others as well. But these are the prominent ones that every one of us knows. Okay, then alarmed over these effects, concerned over these effects, worried over these effects. The world community is showing its resolve to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases. Right? The world community, entire world, in fact, globally, is concerned and worried, and that's why they're taking certain concrete actions and resolutions that, okay, we need to reduce these emissions of greenhouse gases. And important here is that world summits are taking place on climate change. I think you must be knowing there are these conferences under the umbrella of United Nations on climate change. And notable among those is that on Earth Day, that's 22nd of April 2016, say 175 world leaders signed the Paris Agreement. Very important agreement, 2016. It was signed by 175 world leaders at the United Nations headquarters in New York. This was by far the largest number of countries, 175, largest number of countries ever to sign an international agreement on a single day, which has been subsequently ratified by many other countries. So that's the importance, this kind of climate change, etc., is being given by the world leaders. Okay. All right. So here are some questions, the easy ones maybe. To begin with, are greenhouse gases required at all? It's kind of yes or no question. You could post your answers through chat box. I think the answer should be visible to me, hopefully. All right, all participants, are greenhouse gases required at all? Yes or no? Okay, yes. Shubhu Padai says yes. Okay, Vignesh also. Amoria, yes. That's right. Fine. So the answer is yes, yes, that's right. So Poonam, again Bharadwaj, yes. So thank you all of you. Indicates that you're all attentive, listening to me. Thank you. So yes, again, yes. Thank you so much, Vivek. Right, fine. So I appreciate your response. I appreciate your responsiveness and attentiveness as well. Yes. All of you, wonderful. I appreciate that. Rather saying yes, that's a good way to connect with you online, and still I can. Yes, Nirmal Chandra. Yes, the answer is yes. Perfectly fine. Thank you. All right. Is there any other question? Let me see. Yeah, there's another question for you. Go on to the second question. Do greenhouse gases occur naturally? Again, it's kind of yes or no question. Yes, again. Yeah, absolutely. No. Vagis Amoria, you said no. Do greenhouse gases occur naturally? The answer is yes. If you talk of carbon dioxide gas, and if you talk of methane, these are occurring naturally. Yes, Monica saying yes, right. So, so these gases, they do occur naturally. Okay, so do greenhouse gases occur naturally? Yes, they do occur naturally. Okay, do all greenhouse gases occur naturally? Again, kind of yes or no question. No, this time you're right. Yes, this time the no is correct answer. Wonderful, very nice, very nice. Good. I appreciate that. So, do all greenhouse gases occur naturally? The answer is no. There are some man-made gases as well. Correct. Poonam, again, right. So, all right, here's a question. What if there are no greenhouse gases? This question is not yes or no. This question is not a yes or no answer. What if there are no greenhouse gases? What will happen? Life will not exist. Okay, fine. It's essential to maintain livable temperature. Temperature will reduce to very cool. Okay. All right. All right. So you know you have the answer, you have the idea. Perfectly fine. I appreciate that. In fact, imbalance will occur. So imbalance will occur. That's temperature will be very low. How much low, by the way? I know most we're talking about the temperature will reduce. It will be low. You know to what extent? How much low? Balance in temperature is needed. That's true. So to what extent? I mean, the temperature will take a dip. It'll go. You know, changes. That's right. Temperature is at minus 20 degrees Celsius. All right. All right. All right, so it's around that. Perfectly fine. So all of you are very, very intelligent. I appreciate that. Greenhouse gases are essential, needed for life to sustain on this planet, life to exist on this planet, so to say. Greenhouse gases in the air trap the radiation from the sun and act like a thermal blanket around the planet, right? So greenhouse gas effect, in fact, is essential, needed, required. You know, and that what is greenhouse gas effect? The radiations that come from the sun, part of it is trapped because of these greenhouse gases. It's not allowed to go out of that atmosphere. So these gases, they act like a thermal blanket around the planet, and without the greenhouse effect, the earth would have an average temperature of minus 18 degrees Celsius and will be covered all the time in ice. Life as we know today, let's say on this planet, it would not be able to survive. Okay, maybe the species that can survive in that temperature possibly can exist, but the way it is, the way we see life today on this planet, including human beings and all other biological creatures, so that will not be possible. So the greenhouse gases are essential, very important. All right, or still there are some questions? Okay, if greenhouse gases are required for survival, then where's the problem? Fine, you all said yes, these are needed. Then where's the issue? Problem kind. Tell me, write the answers. Greenhouse gases are required. There's a threshold level. All right, threshold level. That's right. Good. Increase in temperature. Okay, imbalance, harmful. Gas is harmful. See, my question is greenhouse gases are required, needed, essential, limited amount to maintain temperature. So where's the problem? Right, so the problem lies where? Will cause impact on habitats. That's true. So the problem lies in the concentration of greenhouse gases, the quantity, the amount of greenhouse gases, right? Somebody, had written that there's a threshold, right? So the concentration of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere is increasing, right? So the natural balance that used to exist on this planet, maybe 100 years, 200 years ago, maybe 500 years ago, that's spoiled because of the man-made activities, okay? Because of the human activities primarily. Okay, so the problem lies in the concentration. The problem lies in the amount of greenhouse gases that is increased, like anything, and the natural balance that it used to be, right? When there were no kind of man activities like this, it was absolutely pure balance in nature. Whatever were the greenhouse gases, that were there, um, they used to be balanced by the kind of green cover that was there on this planet. So but then we have disturbed that, and because of that the concentration has increased of the greenhouse gases, and in fact it's still increasing at a very rapid pace. So the problem lies there in the this concentration, or the amount, or the threshold that we have covered. In a way, the natural balance that was there, we have broken it, gone beyond. All right, okay, so what is the alternative? uh, Climate change, that's right. So the alternative is, the answer is what? What is the alternative? The alternative is clean energy or renewable energy, right? That is the alternative of this. Absolutely right, Arpita, Bhakti. This is clean energy or renewable energy. That's the answer to this. And because a major chunk of these greenhouse gases is coming through the fossil fuels, burning of the fossil fuels, the energy needs that we used to meet out using thermal power plants, maybe oil and gas and this and that. So the answer lies in clean energy or renewable energy. Okay, India is a country blessed by nature. When we say India is a country blessed by nature, that means how it is blessed by nature? With 300 clear sunny days in a year. We do have in our country something around 300 clear sunny days. That means we have a huge potential of solar energy. There are countries wherein the sun is not available, maybe for these many days in the first place. Forget 300 days, it might be available clear sunny days, maybe out of 365, only 65, and that too only for 5 hours, 6 hours, maybe 4 hours, like that. There are countries wherein it's kind of the daytime is only limited to 3, 4, 5 hours. Otherwise, it's kind of night, right? So, in that sense, we have something around 300 clear sunny days, right? We can try and exploit and explore this potential and have our energy needs met through solar energy, solar photovoltaics, or direct solar, whichever way. Okay. Then next important lesson is over a dozen perennial rivers that flow all through the year. We do have these more than a dozen perennial rivers, right? May not be in all countries. There are these kind of natural resources available. We can try and use that water resource for generating electricity. And a coastline of more than 7,500 kilometers. We have the coastline which is more than 7,500 kilometers, wherein there's huge potential of your wind energy. The wind installations, the windmills, they are primarily installed around the shores, on the coastline. So there are countries, maybe more than 50% countries which are landlocked. They do not have the coastline at all. They're not touching the sea. Right. So right from the peaky mountains, the sunny, the snowy peaky mountains to the plains, to the plateau, to the coastline, and with this all, our country, truly, speaking, is blessed by nature. It's us, that we need to be aware of and to be using these resources judiciously for our benefit, and we can not only be energy sufficient ourselves, but with this resource available, with this richness available, we can even supply energy and take care of the energy needs of our neighbors, even, or anybody that we can transport to. All right, so India has got a huge potential of renewable energy, so much so to the extent that we can move into a fully renewable electricity system by 2050. That's what I was talking about. Ideally speaking, the world possibly should be and will be, maybe the pace at which we are adding these renewable energy capacities into our existing power network. By 2050, we can expect the world to be powered fully through renewable energy. So that's the kind of potential, and that's the kind of importance, right? Okay, just for you to appreciate India at night from space. If you look at this picture, that why this picture I kept here is to emphasize the point that we need energy in daytime, we need energy in nighttime. We need energy at every moment, right? Whether it's daytime, nighttime, whatever it is, we are using energy all the time. We need energy all the time. Okay, and obviously, might be this picture is around Diwali and things like that. So a lot of energy, and that's being used all the time. That was the idea of putting this picture here. World energy consumption. If you see, if you look at this figure, the major share of the world energy, that the world is using, used to come and still is being, is coming through. Say oil primarily, 70 till to 2020. If you see the trend. Second major source of energy has been all along, these decades, the coal, right? Oil, then coal. Then third is natural gas. light blue. Then hydro, the energy that's coming through hydropowers maybe. Then nuclear, and then other renewables. So if you talk of other renewable sources, right, then since 70 until in a way 2000, say 2010, we can consider, say, it was almost negligible. The share of renewable energy in this overall configuration has been almost negligible, right? And since then, the steep rise, if you look at the curve, if you look at this, slope of this curve, green curve, it is rising very steeply. And if it, I mean, though the data is little old, but then yes, the pace at which this is rising, soon we'll be surpassing all these sources, and this will be number one. The energy contributor and renewable energy sources will be the number one energy contributor in the overall mix of these all energies. Okay, how much longer can we depend on fossil fuels? We cannot, because they are fossil fuels. They do have a life expectancy beyond certain point, whatever that point may be, 50 years, 100 years, 150 years, same pace without any renewables, maybe there'll be a day pretty soon. But since we are concerned, we are worried, and we have started working towards renewables, so we'll be having these reserves, we'll not be using. Burning fossil fuels has increased atmospheric pollution, that we will understand. The carbon stored in fossil fuels is released as carbon dioxide when they are burnt, and this leads to the greenhouse gas effect, and in a way resulting into global warming. Global temperature anomaly, and that's what I was talking about. How much, when you talk of global warming, then over a period of maybe 10 years, every decade, if you go in for the average increase in the temperature on the Earth's surface, if you look at this, say annual mean, and this is 5-year smoothing, the red color. So 1880, if you start, let's say this year, then it was rather coming down and kept on coming down until 1900 and 10, maybe 1910, and then after it started increasing, and around 1940, 45 or 50, there is a steep rise, and that was where this was the industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, right? So the temperature, a lot of industrial activities, a lot of use of these fossil fuels, and as a result, release of carbon dioxide gas and other gases. So this temperature rise is pretty much high here around this window of time. Then after, it's kind of steady, kind of increase, but then after somewhere around 1980 or 1990, or rather 1980 onwards, there is this steep rise in the global average temperature, right? 2020, I mean, still it's rising very steeply. So this is where we need to arrest this rise of temperature if we want to reverse the climate change, or if you want to reduce the global temperature, global warming. We need to cap this. We need to, in the first place, stabilize this, and then make it negative, right? So that's the need of the day, and the countries and the governments are working around, and maybe very soon with the renewables, they're into the energy market, energy mix primarily, and that will definitely reduce. That will go, to the negative. All right, carbon emission by conventional energy sources. So world fossil carbon dioxide emissions 70 till 2018, if you see, then which country? Say it was United States at number one all along, right? Except maybe after 2005 or so, 2004 or so, when the China surpassed the United States. So it is China now which is the number one contributor in carbon dioxide gas release in the atmosphere, right? Then comes USA, United States. Then your European Union put together, all of it, all 28 countries. Then India, yes, we are also now contributing, but still lagging far behind them. So that's like fairly good. Russia, then Japan, and then this dotted black is all other countries, the leftovers, they're also contributing to it, and then international shipping and aviation. So this is how the countries, they are, contributing to the fossil carbon dioxide gas emissions. Non-conventional energy sources, they are all known to you again, or maybe you call it as renewable, you call it as non-conventional. It's all the same energy generated by using, I think this we have discussed initially, by using wind, tides, solar, geothermal heat, and biomass, including farm and animal waste, is known as non-conventional energy. All these sources are renewable or inexhaustible and do not cause environmental pollution. That's also simple enough. Moreover, they do not require heavy expenditure as well. Maybe except the installation cost, may whatever it is, and with the evolution of technology, even the installation cost is also coming very down. The technology research that's going around these resources, that's bringing the cost down of the production of all these windmills or maybe solar PV cells, etc., etc. Non-renewable versus renewable, goes without saying that natural resources that can be replaced and reused by nature are termed renewables, and natural resources that cannot be replaced are termed non-renewables. Renewable sources are replaced through natural processes at a rate that is equal to or greater than the rate at which they are consumed, they are used. And depletion is usually not a worry. Right, so obviously if you talk of sun energy, solar energy, or wind energy for that matter, till the time there's life on this planet, there'll be wind flowing and there'll be sun, right? If there's no sun, there's no life. So that's the end of it also. So these resources, depletion is not a worry. I mean, they are there till the time there's life. Otherwise, there's no life and it's all gone and finished. So non-renewable resources are exhaustible and are extracted faster than the rate at which they are formed. For example, if we talk of fossil fuels, that includes coal, oil, natural gas, they were formed over maybe thousands of years, and they are being extracted, they are being exploited and used at a pace which is in a way going to lead to their extinction pretty soon. So that's in a way exhaustible, so to say. India cumulative power mix as on 31st of March 2019. India's cumulative power mix is something like this. The power being produced, the electrical power we're talking about, so 57.14% is coming through coal-fired thermal power plants. 13.12% is coming through your hydro. Then 7.21% of the electricity power is coming through gas power stations. Then diesel 0.24, nuclear I think 1.696, so like that. Then waste to power is also there, some 0.04%, and renewable energy resources, that's 20.32%. And there the bifurcation is wind, that's a major chunk. That's a little old data. Maybe as of now the solar possibly might have taken over, or maybe I don't have the latest data with me. But yes, so that is also fairly sizable percentage. 20.32% wind, then solar 6.79, biopower 2.52, and small hydro is 1.30. That also constitutes the renewable energy source. Okay. Renewable energy resources here in India, if you talk of, then only renewable if you think of, then we have the wind power, the major say 29.15, solar up next 9.56, then biomass, then small hydro, then waste to power. That's the power in gigawatt. Okay, so 29.15 gigawatt, that's coming through wind in 2019. That's what I'm talking about, and this much is through solar and like that. Okay, top 15 countries using renewable energy resources. What are the top 15 countries that are using renewable energy resources? So if you look at United States number 1, China number 2, Germany, then Spain, Brazil, Italy, then India. We are also not lagging behind, somewhere at number 7, and maybe we might have moved up beyond these countries, maybe by a number or a two, one or a two more steps. And soon possibly the way the government is laying all focus and we are concerned about and the size of a country and the installations that are taking place, we will soon be somewhere at number, if not number 1 or a 2, then at least number 3, possibly number 3 or 4 for sure in the times to come. And then after India we have United Kingdom, Japan, France, Sweden, Canada, Denmark, Poland, and Portugal. Okay, so that's the top 15 countries into renewable energy sector, or the energy they are kind of extracting through renewables. Renewable power capacities addition, if you see, annual additions of renewable power capacity by technology and total 2012 to 2018. If you see, that's the solar, the yellow one, then wind power is blue, then hydro is kind of green, and then this orange color is biopower, geothermal, ocean power, and concentrated solar power, CSP, concentrated solar power. Those of you who are from mechanical engineering background may understand this term. So this was 2012 solar. This was only in gigawatt. That was something around say 2030, maybe 25 or 30 gigawatts, so to say. Then wind, etc. And if you look at this 2018 data, solar is touching around 100, right, gigawatt, and then wind and all that. So did alone in 2008, if we talk of all renewables put together, the annual addition in just one year, that is 2018, was 181 gigawatt world over. 181 gigawatt world over is the annual addition, right? Whereas if you look at 2012, it's like not that much. And if you go beyond 4 years down the line, we are here as on date, the annual addition may be touching around 300 gigawatt, per annum instead of 181. Just in 4 years, it's more than, I mean, just almost double. Okay, how much renewable energy each country will consume in 2030? So these are some of the projections that in 2030, it will be China, which will be at number one. So they'll be, to be consuming something around 20% of the total renewable energy world over. Then India will be also consuming something around 9%. Then European Union as a whole put together would be consuming something around 14%. USA 15%, Brazil 7%, and all these small, Russian Federation some 2%, Kazakhstan 1%, like that. So these are the major countries that will be consuming the energy. In just I need to take a call if you don't mind. Oh, sir, namaskar. Hello. Namaskar, sir. I talk now, sir. Talk there. हाँ वो आ जाएगी सर, वो आ जाएगी, रमजी जी छुट्टी पे थे इसलिए ना, हाँ करा, ठीक है. So sorry, I usually don't pick up any call in between, but I thought there's something important, which it was not. So this is the percentage of energy, renewable energy, that is expected to be consumed by these countries in 2030. Installed capacity for renewable power generation by technology. If you talk of technology, whether it's a wind, the energy is coming through wind, or maybe solar, maybe tidal, maybe biomass, etc. So 2014 till 2030, power generation capacity gigawatt installed by 2030. Right, so if you look at the conventional non-renewable energy, we have coal, natural gas, nuclear, oil, etc. That is what is expected. If 2014, that's a blue color, is taken as a reference, and I mean, that's not a reference, 2014 is taken as the actual statistical information. I mean, what is the value as on 2014, and what is the reference case? Ideally, we are targeting, okay, this much, and renewable energy roadmap. If we put little extra effort, then we can go beyond that target also. So yellow is the target, 2014 is the the data as of 2014, right? So if you look at wind, let's talk only of renewables, then the wind is, as in 2014, world over, it's 370 gigawatt installed capacity. Reference could be 1070. We can go up to 1070 gigawatt, and if we put little extra efforts, we can touch even 1990 gigawatt. That's a potential that we do have. Solar PV 180 gigawatt in 2014. Target set for 2030 is 780 gigawatt. We can touch around 1760, like that. So all these capacities. So that's the projection, which is very positive and very good sign for the energy sector and the sustainability. Okay, here's a question, right, for me to be relaxing in putting the question to you. All right, I think very easy question. What is the target India has set for itself in terms of total power generation through renewable sources by 2022? That's almost near the end. 2-3 months down the line, 2.5 months down the line, we'll be closing on this. So what is the target set for? 175 gigawatt, perfectly fine. Okay, yeah, that's right. 175 gigawatt, and we've already achieved it. Yeah, that's true. So there's a revised target also. So the good thing is that, okay, that's a wonderful thing. 175 gigawatt, perfectly right. That's a correct answer. 175 gigawatt is the target set for 2022. About 100 gigawatt from solar, that's true. Another question, 175 gigawatt renewable energy will contribute, okay, to 18.9% of the entire power consumption in India in 2022. So if you look at this, install solar capacity and install renewable capacity, and then 175 gigawatts somewhere here, that makes it some 18.9% of the total energy that will be coming through renewables. All right, another question, what is that? Okay, something, someone of you did answer that question partly. What is the breakup of 175 gigawatt power targeted to be generated from renewable sources by 2022? We're talking about 175, that's correct. So how much of it is to come from where? Or will it be like 175 all along coming through wind or coming through solar, or will there be some breakup? What is the target? So could any one of you give me the breakup of it? How much gigawatt from which source? Yes. 100 solar, rest of it is from I couldn't read out, it's like vanished pretty fast. Yes, rest of you. Tell me, you have the, yes, perfectly fine. Arpita, 160 and something like that. I mean, 10. What was the right? I think that's the right answer. 100 gigawatt from solar. Monica, again, right. 5 from small hydro. Cool. So you can cooperate, somebody can answer 100 from solar, the other person can answer 60 from wind, and the third person can 10 gigawatt from biomass. So that's a cooperative management. Huh? So 100 gigawatt from solar, that's 360 from wind, 10 from biomass, and 5 from small hydropower. Okay, that's the breakup of this energy. It was targeted. All right. Estimated direct and indirect jobs in renewable energy by country and by technology. This sector, as I said, and is very, very promising sector. Right. And I would rather, vouch for at least one course around renewable energy in every discipline, whether it's like civil, mechanical, electrical, electronics, computers, whatever it is. At least there should be some elective course if it's not a core branch. Otherwise, if it's electrical, mechanical, or for that matter even civil, we should have a mandatory course, at least one course on renewable energy. And if it's CS, IT, etc., electronics, etc., there also, there should be at least one course around renewable energy. There's a whole lot of power electronics and computers that's also being used in these technologies. And these technologies, in fact, are the renewable energy, in fact, is the future of energy. That's a way forward. Okay. So if you look at this, then world over, if you look at the solar PV sector, there'll be 3,095,000 jobs, right? 3,000 jobs. If you talk of China, it's something on 1962, and if you talk of our own country, there'll be 121,000 jobs, right? And that's the potential it holds. Likewise, liquid biofuel, wind power, etc. So what I mean to say is that this sector of renewable energy has got a huge potential for the job openings, and for the not only for jobs, but also for very wonderful scope for entrepreneurs, for the startups and ventures that you can start your own, and maybe you can hook up to the grid and supply energy to the grid. So not only jobs, but also entrepreneurial scope and startup scope for startups of your own, right? All right, here's a question, the simple one. Interesting though. Do you know when electricity was first introduced in India? When electricity was first introduced in India? पहली बार भारत में बिजली कब इंट्रोड्यूस हुई और कहाँ पे? उससे पहले we used to be living on these other sources of energy, in a way, not in the form of electricity, but otherwise. Yes, I think, sorry, I couldn't understand by the time it's finished. 1905, somebody written, Arpita, Kolkata, right? Kolkata Pankaj again. That's right. Okay. Okay, so you're right, Kolkata city, Pushpendra, that's true. So the answer lies at the first demonstration of, yes, that's true, Poonam, 1879, all right? So the first demonstration of an electric light in Kolkata, now Kolkata, was conducted on 24th of July, 1879. 24th of July, 1879. 1879, Pushpender, right? By P.W. Fluorine Company on 7th of January 1897, some 12, how many years later, Kilburn and Company secured the Calcutta Electric Lighting License as agents of the Indian Electric Company, which was registered in London on 15th of January 1897. Right, so this was 1879 in Kolkata by P.W. Fluorine Company, first time. And then Mumbai saw the electric lighting demonstration for the first time in 1882, 3 years down after Kolkata, 1882 at Crawford Market, and the Mumbai Electric Supply and Tramways Company, BEST, the company is still existing, set up a generating station in 1905 to provide electricity for the tramway. So it was 1905 in Mumbai, that was generating station set up, but the demonstration in Mumbai took place in 1882. So first Kolkata, then Mumbai. And prior to that, life was cool only. Life was very pleasant and it's all very nice. And we used to be using maybe oils for our lighting purposes, etc. But then maybe people who were happier and healthier, they had sufficient time for each other. Now we have all these gadgets, all facilities, all comfort around. What we don't have is time for each other. Not for each other, we don't have time for ourselves even. That's the irony, right? And I don't know whether we are healthier today, or we used to be healthier 100 years ago, 20 years ago, or happier today, or we used to be happier earlier. You can give it a thought and find out, possibly. It's okay. Let's move forward. All right, so this is where the first technology starts. Until now, it was just some sort of interesting statistics or figures or facts or discussions that I thought to excite you around renewable energy. Now we talk of solar energy, solar power. All right. When we talk of solar power, we all know it, that there's radiant energy coming from the sun, and that's the physics chemistry of it, right? This radiant energy coming from the sun has got so many uses. Major uses of solar energy could be direct or indirect, whichever way. If we think of the direct use of energy, that's in the form of for heating purposes. You could be heating water, you could be heating some other things, all right? That could be space heating as well. In some cold regions, the houses are so constructed that they let the radiant energy come in the house through the glass panes, windows, etc., and that energy is there in the inside house once that warms it up. So space heating, Generating electrical energy, we are using solar PV for generating electricity from solar energy. All right. Solar technologies for daylighting, you could be using this. Passive solar heating. All right. Again, concentrating solar thermal, we could be say something like this. If you're constructing a house, something like this, then what are you doing is you are putting a lot of glass window panes and letting the natural light come in. Nowadays what we do is we have these curtains available, right? Very nice, beautiful, and double layered. Maybe we do not let any ray come in the house, which is very bad actually. We should try and let as much solar radiant energy come in for lighting purposes. If there could be a natural light that can serve a purpose, why do we have a artificial light switched on, right? Why do we put up the curtains, then switch on the lights? Instead, we can do with the natural light in, we should. Passive solar heating, right? Something like this you could be using for heating a space. Concentrating solar thermal, we do have these reflectors placed all over the space, and there could be something like a central tower wherein the incident and radiant energy out of these, the reflected energy that gets focused here on this tower, and that heats it up, and the temperature of this central tower could be as high as maybe 500 degrees Celsius, more than that. And this temperature could be made use of maybe in generating steam and then eventually the electrical power, or whichever way. But then yes, by placing these solar reflectors, concentrated rays, they are pointed at this central tower, which gets heated up pretty much high, and that temperature you could be using for any purpose. And solar photovoltaics, obviously, we all nowadays see, or maybe on the rooftops of our houses, we have solar parks, we have all solar installations in the fields. So these are some of the uses of solar technology. All right. Passive solar for heating purposes primarily. So these are some of the examples of the designs of houses that are using the solar energy for heating purposes. These homes in Montana and California with the passive solar design heats the home in the winter. So in the winter season, I mean, if you have something like this, it's fairly cool. Maybe you don't need any air conditioning in that sense. Okay. So passive solar. So possibly there's a video. It should run for you, and I'm sure you'll appreciate that. Okay. And let me play it for you. So
our city depends on electricity. By burning fossil fuels like coal, diesel, and natural gas, we are able to generate electricity from steam turbines. But what happens when we deplete these limited resources? Without fuel, there won't be enough electricity to power central Luzon. There will be brownouts, hospital equipment will shut down, streets will be dark and dangerous, electronic communications will be disabled, businesses will be paralyzed, and children won't get the quality of education they deserve. These will become long-term problems, affecting our lives, slowing the progress of growing cities in central Luzon. But hope shines above us. The infinite power of the sun. So how can we harness this power? These are solar cells. They can convert light energy into electricity. Each cell contains two pieces of silicon, one that is negatively charged and another that is positive. When light particles collide with the negatively charged silicon, electrons fall and get attracted to the positively charged silicon. As electrons travel from silicon to silicon, they create a current, which we call direct current electricity, or DC. This is the type of electricity found in battery. A number of solar cells connected to each other and mounted in a frame is called a module. Each module is designed to generate about 30 volts DC. To generate large amounts of electricity, Modules are grouped together to form an array. These are scattered throughout an open field to capture as much solar power as possible. But this electricity is still not ready for public use. It needs to be converted to match the type of electricity needed by home appliances. That's why solar power plants have inverters and transformers. The inverter converts the single current direction of DC electricity to multiple directions of alternating current, or AC. The electricity then flows to the transformer and boosts it to 13,800 volts to reduce power loss when electricity is transmitted to far distances. From the transformer, electricity flows to a substation. This regulates electricity to usable 220 volts using another transformer and distributes power to homes. This is how the Roslag solar power plant in Mexico, Pampanga works. It generates about 10 megawatts of electricity that can power almost 9,000 households or 5 barangays. Unlike fossil fuel plants which can be depleted and produces carbon emissions that harm the environment, Roslag runs on 100% renewable energy from the sun. In time, this clean and efficient energy source can help save us from power crisis. It generates electricity from the free light of the sun and lessens the cause of global warming that destroys the planet. With the sun's energy, we can have a better community that is safe, empowered, and progressive. I'm Ruslan, and the power of the sun is yours.
So that was the
Our
small video for you. All right, I hope you could appreciate that. And the power of sun, obviously, yes, that's a free energy available, and that's available for all times to come, right? Till the time there's life and there's the sun. So advantage of solar energy, if you talk of that's clean, obviously that doesn't cause any pollution. That's sustainable, can be used for longer duration, for any duration, right? I mean, obviously when it's daytime then only you can use, but then it's sustainable, you know, there'll be till the time there is a solar system, there's this energy available, so it's sustainable. Provide electricity to remote places where it's difficult for the grid to reach. Maybe you don't have the grid connectivity. Even on those remote places, you can have the isolated solar panels installed and you can provide electricity to those particular areas. Free of cost, yes, it's not costing anything, but for the installation, right, you don't have to pay for any other thing of the equipment. All right, there are some disadvantages also of the solar energy. What is that? Inefficient. So that is one of the disadvantages of this energy, in a way that maximum efficiency that we have achieved until now is to the tune, practically speaking, around 30%. And in the research labs, people talk of achieving even beyond 40%, also something around 42, 43% as well. But then that's under prototype testing. Maybe it's practically it's not available. A commercial product or a solar array or a module is not available yet, which has achieved that much percentage. So that's the disadvantage. Little less efficient, costly equipment. Yes, it used to be at some point in time, but as of now, as on today, with the technology evolution, with the research that's going around in this sector, the cost of the equipment is also coming down, and it's very, very reasonable. Part-time. This energy, that's the disadvantage. In fact, the energy is available only in during the daytime, and that too it's kind of unpredictable, dependent on weather. So this weather dependency, the intermittency of this energy because of the varying weather conditions is one of the bottlenecks. So it's unpredictable, uncertain source of energy in that sense, though we do have very accurate forecasts available nowadays of the weather, and we get to know yes, around this time of the day there'll be, it'll be cloudy. All right, somebody had written something. I don't know. If it was an appreciation, I appreciate that. And if there was a question, I couldn't read it out. So thank you anyway. So this dependency of this solar energy is onto the weather. So weather dependency is one of the major concerns, and that's the disadvantage. And because of that, we need to have some storage system. We need to be able to store energy in terms of maybe with the help of batteries or with the help of some other energy storage devices. A lot many of them they are there. Pumped hydro for mechanical engineering students, maybe they can appreciate that, or maybe compressed air, or maybe battery, or maybe it's your flywheel energy storage. So all ways and means they are available to us, by way of which when the energy is available during daytime, we can store it if it's not being used fully, and then when it's not available, we can supply it, right? So the shortfall, the deficit power can be supplied through that storage, right? So that's the disadvantage. Then solar resource map of India, if you look at that, that's what I was talking about. Our country is blessed in terms of by nature, right? We have more than 300 clear sunny days, right? If you look at this, more darker the color in red, the more the potential of solar energy. And if you look at our country, it's almost every part of the country, every part of the geography of our country, there's a potential of solar energy, except maybe these blue colors, northeastern of Himalayas, and this part of it where there's little less potential, but otherwise all across, there's huge potential for solar energy, and that's a wonderful thing. And we need to be grateful to God in that sense, grateful nature, and we should take pride in the fact that we are born in this country. If we can be caring to our own country, to the geography, to the nature, and we use our resources honestly and judiciously, and we run our country with all honesty, definitely we are in a way self-sufficient in so many things. We don't have to look outward for anything in that sense. Solar and PV right. Solar PV global capacity and annual additions. That's what I was talking about in previous slide somewhere. If you look at the solar PV global capacity, and what is the annual addition in just 1 year, how much addition is taking place, and what is the total capacity? If you look at total global capacity in 2006, it is just 6 gigawatt. Just 6 gigawatt was the total capacity globally in 2006. And 16 years down, just 2022, solar cell only. Look at this window of time, not much. From 6 gigawatt now, then 2007 it was 8, and the total addition in 1 year was only 2.5, then moved to 16, then 23, then 40, then 70, 99, and annual additions that's shown in a this orange color. 38 gigawatt was in the total capacity addition in 2013, then 40 gigawatt in 2014, and total capacity 177. 2016, 303 gigawatt, that's the total capacity, and 75 gigawatt was the annual addition just in 1 year. And I mean, look at this addition, 75 gigawatt in just 1 year. And if you talk of 2022, per annum addition could be touching, I think, I don't know, I mean, I don't have the, to be honest, statistic exactly, but maybe more than somewhere 150 or 200 gigawatts. And I mean, look at this steep rise, exponential rise actually. And there'll be a time very soon, maybe decade down, 2 decades down, almost more than 50% energy needs will come through renewables. And by 2050 for sure, it'll be touching almost entire world 100% through renewables. Solar PV capacity and additions, top 10 countries. What are those top 10 countries wherein the solar PV capacity additions are taking place at very high scale? That's where it is. China number 1 with in just 2016 alone, they added 34.5 gigawatt. China alone added 34.5 gigawatt. That means China accounted for 46% of the new capacity addition alone. China alone added almost 50% of the total capacity the world over people added. Right, China alone did that. So look at this. Japan, 8.6 gigawatts. In Germany, 1.4 gigawatt. United States, some 14.8, and we are 4.1 gigawatt we added in 2016. But as of now, we are maybe far ahead of these, at least two countries for sure. then Australia, France, Australia, and Spain. So these are the top 10 countries in terms of annual additions and total solar power capacities. Right, so we can also be proud of our growth. All right, here's a question for you. Do you know where is the world's biggest solar power plant? World's biggest solar power plant. Yes. That's India. All right. Biggest India. Okay. Any other answer? Hello, you're there? I hope you're all connected with me. India again, Monica saying yes. India, okay. All right. Okay. Yes, that's a absolute correct answer. In India, and that too where? Where in India? That's in Rajasthan. Badla Solar Power Park. That's true. So let's go to the answer now. The answer is already available. Yes, true, Rajasthan. That's okay. So the biggest solar power plant in the world, we can take pride in this fact. Okay, that's in Badla Solar Power Park, Badla Solar Park, Jodhpur, Rajasthan, India, with a capacity of 2,245 megawatt. 2,245 megawatt. You know, when the two solar power parks they were combined together, so that became, and the additions of solar power, extension of this. So until I think until March or so, it was the last year. It was China, and then it was India. You know, that we are now the largest thing. And for your information, just because I come from NIT Kurukshetra, so we also have 1 megawatt solar power plant, rooftop solar power plant at NIT Kurukshetra, which is operational for the I think for the last 4 years or so. Right, and that's like on our rooftops. We do have potential of maybe another 2 megawatts. And the day we are able to commission that or install that capacity, I think will be energy neutral. Will be generating enough electricity for our consumption. 3 megawatt, I think we have total maximum load around 3.5 megawatt or so. So all institutions to try and make good use of their rooftop space available and try and have these solar installations done. And because of this 1 megawatt solar power plant, we are, I think saving something around 12 to 13 lakh of rupees electricity bill per month. Right, so that's the scale of saving, right? So I personally feel happy about this fact that we do have this capacity, working 1 megawatt solar power capacity. All right, second source of renewable energy we'll discuss is the tidal power. The tidal power, as we all know, because of the tides, and we do have in each day, every 24 hours, there's a high tide, there's a low tide, right? And why these tides occur? This is, when there's a barrage, let's say, during the high tides, the water inflows onto the shore from the sea, and this is what it is shown. And during low tide, the water that had flown up onto the shore goes back, retreats to the sea, right? And the idea is, if we can make use of this kinetic energy of the water, that is when it's flowing towards the shore and when it's retreating back to the sea, on both sides movements, if you can have the turbine and genset placed in the path of it, or the path of water flow, so while it's coming up onshore, it'll move the blades and it'll run the turbine, and obviously coupled with that is a generator, and it'll produce electricity. When it's retreating back, what is going back from to the sea, then again it'll rotate, and the turbine coupled with the genset gives you the electricity. So if we can make use of these two, this phenomenon, which is a natural phenomenon occurring every 24 hours, high tides and low tides, we can generate electricity. So that's a tidal power. Tides are the rise and fall of sea levels due to combined effect of the moon, the sun, and rotation of the earth. So because of these reasons, combined effect of the moon, the sun, and the rotation of earth results in high tides and low tides. So we try and make use of this. Though it is not possible at every location, there are certain geographic locations where this potential exists, and you can have these, installations there, not everywhere, in fact. So the tides, when you talk of millions of gallons of water flow onto shore during tidal flows and away from shore during ebbs, we call it as an ebb, moving away from the land, right? So during these two time periods, when it's flowing up, when it's going down back to sea, millions of gallons of water, and look at the energy it might be having, kinetic energy it might be having, and then eventually when it reaches, and if it is retained by having certain barrages constructed, and then you allow it slowly, so that also holds a potential energy. The larger the tidal influence, the greater the displacement of water, and therefore the more potential energy that can be harvested during power generation. All right. So when there's a large influx of water, construct a barrage, stop the water, and then let it move down slowly. So you can make use of the potential energy and kinetic energy when it's flowing in and flowing out back. All right, the tidal stream generator is something like this. I mean, this is a typical example of a 1 megawatt RTT unit, duct diameter. I mean, this is a unit genset coupled with a turbine of certain company. And if you look at this, it's a 1 megawatt unit only. And look at the duct diameter, which is 15 meter. The duct diameter is 15 meter. 15 meter die is little huge, in fact, and is very huge. And with a duct length of 19.2 meters, if you look at the depth of this duct length, that is 19.2 meters. That's again pretty huge. And just for 1 megawatt unit, maybe if it's more than that, the size would be different. Then turbine diameter is 11.5 meters. The turbine diameter, there's a turbine in this. The diameter of the turbine is 11.5 meters. So that's the construction. Then these are the gravity bases, which are like fixed, grooved onto the surface. And there's a coupled the removable cassette. Onto that there is this generating module, right? So this is coupled here onto it. So when the water flows in, it moves this turbine. Coupled with that is generates electricity. When the water recedes back to the sea, again it moves and produces electricity. All right. I think there's a video again for you to appreciate, maybe. All right. I think it's smaller than the previous one.
Tidal power. Tidal power is a form of hydropower that converts the energy from the natural rise and fall of the tides into electricity. Tides are caused by the combined effects of gravitational forces exerted by the moon, the sun, and the rotation of the earth. Tidal plants can only be installed along coastlines. Coastlines often experience 2 high tides and 2 low tides on a daily basis. The difference in water levels must be at least 5 meters high to produce electricity. Tidal electricity can be created from several technologies, the main ones being tidal barrages, tidal fences, and tidal turbines. Tidal barrages are the most efficient tidal energy sources. A tidal barrage is a dam that utilizes the potential energy generated by the change in height between high and low tides. This energy turns a turbine or compresses air, which in turn creates electricity. Tidal fences are turbines that operate like giant turnstiles, whereas tidal turbines are similar to wind turbines, only underwater. In both cases, electricity is generated when the mechanical energy of tidal currents turns turbines connected to a generator. The generator produces electricity. Ocean currents generate relatively more energy than air currents because ocean water is 832 times more dense than air and therefore applies greater force on the turbines. Tidal power is easy to install and renewable, having no direct greenhouse gas emissions and a low environmental impact. Because the ocean's tidal patterns are well understood, tidal energy is a very predictable energy source, making it highly attractive for electrical grid management. This sets it apart from other renewables that can be more unpredictable. However, adoption of tidal technologies has been slow, and so far the amount of power generated using tidal power plants is very small. This is due largely to the very specific site requirements necessary to produce tidal electricity. Additionally, tide cycles do not always match the daily consumption patterns of electricity and therefore do not provide sufficient capacity to satisfy demand. That's tidal power.
All right, so This was the video, showing you the tidal power, how all you can, which all ways you can generate tidal power. It's basically the high tides and low tides and the water flowing in and out that's made use of. There could be different construction, barrages and fences and tidal turbines you could be using to exploit this kinetic energy. Okay, so tidal power generation, though, but the requirement of a very specific site is very critical. It's very, so it cannot be just anywhere and everywhere on the coastline. There has to be certain site requirements that are to be met. The Reims tidal power, if you see, station in the France, is the world's first tidal power station, opened in 1966 on the Reims River. Reims tidal power station in France was the first tidal power station opened in 1966. And this power station has got 24 turbines and a peak output of 240 megawatt. 24 turbines, peak output of 240. That means each turbine with a capacity of something around 10 megawatt. That's again, that's a huge capacity. And Siwa Lake Tidal Power Station in South Korea is world's biggest with the capacity of 254 megawatts. So the biggest tidal power station that's in South Korea with 254 megawatt capacity, and the first one in 1966 there in France with 240 megawatt. All right, and advantages of using tidal power, as we all know, it's very predictable source of green energy during lifetime of a barrage. The barrage construction, though, it's pretty costly affair, and it is very site specific also, but then once constructed, fine, you can always generate electricity for certain number of hours in a day. It just cannot be for 24 hours, yes, but maybe for 7, 8 or 10 hours, whenever there's high and low tides occurring. And you can very well predict, absolutely predictable. So that's a predictable source of energy. It produces no greenhouse gases or other waste. It needs no fuel as well, so that's why it's free in that sense. Once there's no kind of running cost, not expensive to maintain. Tidal energy has an efficiency of 80% in converting the potential energy of water into electricity. And look at the efficiency of this. That's, way ahead of the solar or wind for that matter. It's around 80%. And vertical axis tidal generators, that was they're shown in that video in the middle of it, the fences type of this. Vertical axis tidal generators may be joined together in series to create a tidal fence. The tidal fence you had seen in the middle, capable of generating electricity on a scale comparable to the largest existing fossil fuel based hydroelectric and nuclear energy generation facilities. So it is just that, how you configure your generating station, which technology, and you can produce any amount of electricity there on that. Disadvantages of tidal power, what are the ones? Barrage primarily across an estuary, we call it as an estuary, the location on the coastline, on the seashore where you can construct a barrage is what is known as the estuary, is very expensive. The construction of a barrage is very expensive to build and affects a very wide area. The environment is changed for many miles upstream and downstream. The very ecology gets changed, for many miles upstream and downstream as well. Maybe some of the sea species, they move along with the water upstream when they go up, and they are retained, on the land itself. So maybe they die and all that, and maybe some land species, they, get dragged into the sea. So this kind of ecological, effect onto the onto the biological species. That's the disadvantage of it. It provides power for around 10 hours each day. Out of 24 hours, only 10 hours when the tide is actually moving in or out, which is not very much. That means that facility that you constructed is idle, is not being used for 14 hours in a day. It's being used only for 10 hours. And that too, for those 10 hours, whether the load requirements around that particular local area are there or not there, doesn't matter. If there's no load requirement, for example, at the estuary site, at a geographical location where you can construct the barrage, and there's the electricity power requirement is not that much, so what you'll do is you'll generate and you'll transmit the power to some different place. But nowadays it's, there are good grid networks available, so you can transfer that. But then yes, it's only for 10 hours a day that facility is being used. Existing ecosystems would be heavily altered with new species moving in and perhaps dominating the old species. That also happens. The ecosystem upstream and even downstream for that matter gets heavily altered with new species moving in and perhaps dominating the old species. Tidal power schemes have a high capital cost. That's the disadvantage of it. All right. Okay, these are the top 6 countries in tidal power generation. If you talk about what are those top 6 countries with the installed capacity in megawatt, not in gigawatt, right? So South Korea 254 gigawatt, France 240, United Kingdom again 240, Scotland 86 megawatt, and then Belgium 20 megawatt. We don't figure out here in India as of now. We do not have a single tidal power station. Though there are plans, in fact, there's a potential also, not much though, but there's a potential. And in the next slide, I think that's there. But yes, these are the top 6 countries in tidal power. There is currently no tidal power plant in India. Although, according to the estimates of the Indian government, the country has a potential of 8,000 megawatt of tidal power. 8,000 megawatt of tidal power. There's some noise from somewhere. Okay, thank you. So this 8,000 in fact includes about 7,000 megawatt potential in the Gulf of Cambay in Gujarat and 1,200 megawatt in the Gulf of Kutch and 100 megawatt in the Gangetic Delta region in the Sundarbans region of the West Bengal. So that's the total potential that we do have in our country, something around 8,000 megawatt of tidal power. All right, and it's a good news that the government of Gujarat is all set to develop India's first tidal energy plant. The state government has approved rupees 25 crore for setting up the 50 megawatt plant at the Gulf of Kutch. That's a good beginning. 50 megawatt plant, the first of its kind, that too in India, in Gujarat. And if one goes successful and there's a potential of 8,000, we should try and exploit this potential. Why not? All right. So maybe in the times to come, we'll also have this one and the next one, tidal power plants as well. And this is what I was talking about. The Siva Lake tidal power station in South Korea is the world's largest tidal power installation with a total capacity of 254 megawatt. And that's the one I was talking about, the first of its kind, the first one that came up in the world, 240 megawatt Lawrence tidal power plant on the estuary of the Rance River in Brittany, France. That's the first one, and Siva was the largest one. Okay, and Dr. Chauhan, how much is the time? I think, should I close with this and have some interactions for 5-10 minutes? Which way? And Dr. Raj, if you can hear me and if you can let me know that renewable energy sources are unpredictable, that's true. So do you know which is the most predictable renewable energy source? Perfectly fine. Meanwhile, we were having discussion. Monica, I think, already answered that question. Perfectly fine. That's the tidal energy. That is the most predictable source of energy. You can absolutely precisely predict which time of the day there'll be high tide and which time it will be low tide. So tidal energy is the most predictable renewable energy source. That's the correct answer. All right, let's go on to the next source of energy, which is geothermal. Okay. Yeah, tidal energy, when wonderful. You can type in Hindi also, cool. That's good. So geothermal energy, when we talk of, we know about the Earth's surface. We might have studied in our school days what is geothermal. When we refer to geothermal, that comes from the Greek word ze, that is earth, and thermos means hot. So geothermal, that's the energy that is beneath the surface of Earth, the energy that is trapped inside the Earth's surface. So if we can try and make use of that energy, whichever way, we can extract that energy assets in the form of certain heat, or we can try and make use of that heat in maybe producing steam or things like that. So it is basically the energy that is trapped inside the Earth's surface that we are talking about when we say geothermal energy, the energy that's beneath the surface. Okay. So the geothermal energy means heat inside the earth. The earth is made of layers. I think all of you must be knowing what all layers they are there. Let us refresh our memories of school days. There is this the uppermost surface on which, like, say, we are all sitting and we are all living. That's the crust of it. The innermost is what is the iron core, we call it as iron core. Next up, surrounding that is your outer core, that we call it as magma. Further outer is your magma and rock. Then is we call it as the mantle, right? And we have the crust. All right. At the core, at the center is a core of molten iron. So it's as hot, I mean, you can imagine the temperature that there, it could be in the central core of it, iron core we call it as. There's a core of molten iron, maybe around 5000 degrees Celsius. Around that is an outer core of iron and rock, so hot that rock is in molten state. The liquid rock is called magma. So it is that hot that the rock is also in the molten state. Imagine the temperature and the heat there in that, around that surface, I mean in that core. And the next layer is a mixture of rock and magma called the mantle, that's this. And the outermost is your shell of the earth with the oceans and mountains, that's called the crust of it, right? So that's how the earth surface is made up of layers until the core of it. So the energy that we're talking about is this energy in the form of this heat, right from the innermost core until whatever levels. Okay, so heat inside the earth, inside of the earth is very hot. The inside of the earth is very hot, and that's the geothermal energy, means heat inside the earth. That's okay. We can use this heat to warm our houses and produce electricity. So that's the idea behind. And if we see, how do we use this geothermal energy? The question is that, how do we make use of that? Today, power plants use steam from geothermal wells to make electricity. That's one way of using it. We can, dig the wells deep inside until a point where we have, very good geothermal energy available at the temperature available, whether it's in the form of steam or maybe the boiling water, maybe some other kind of a liquid form it is. So try and make use of that heat to generate steam and produce electricity therefrom. The steam is used to spin the turbines in turn, and the turbines spin the magnets in coils and corpus wire to make electricity. That's generated, coupled generated, in fact. There's a video, I believe, here. Yes, it is. Again, it's a very short video for you.
Heat energy into electrical energy. Geothermal power plants. Geothermal power plants draw from underground resources of steam. The steam is piped directly from underground wells to the power plant. Where it is directed into a turbine and generator unit, and the heat energy is converted into electricity.
So that's, just a small demo of it. You could be extracting that heat, I mean, by digging, deep down to a very, reasonable depth, and we can extract that heat energy from there and use it for geothermal power capacity in addition's top 10 countries. What are those ones, that are using the geothermal energy for producing electricity? We have United States with 3,500 megawatt, maybe 3.5 gigawatt. Then we have Philippines, Indonesia, New Zealand, Mexico, Italy, Turkey, Iceland, Kenya, Japan, and rest of the world. And we do not have much of a potential of geothermal energy, because this is also, again, is available around those areas wherein, most often the volcanoes erupt out, and we have this kind of a scenario. So in those lands you have this potential, but in our country we don't have much of a potential of geothermal energy. All right, so where can we find geothermal energy? The most active geothermal resources we talk of are usually found where earthquakes occur, volcanoes, hot springs, geysers, volcanoes are concentrated. In our country, we do have at some places maybe, you know, these hot springs, garam pani ka chashma and all that, aapne suna hoga maybe, you know, wherein you get the boiling water coming out of the surface. So usko maybe, you know, you can try and make use of that for certain heating purpose or things like that, but not much of a potential of geothermal energy in our country. All right, here is the map for geothermal map of the country. These thermal springs, the red colors indicate, you know, important thermal springs. That is where we do have garam pani ka chashma kind of thing. But in all across the geography of a country, we don't have much of a potential. But yes, whatever are these thermal springs, we can try and make use of this hot water for certain applications. All right. Okay, this is the 120 megawatt power station in southwest Iceland. Iceland is a country, you know, which has the good potential of geothermal, and this is 120 megawatt power station using the geothermal energy that they are producing this much power. All right, and this is Lardello geothermal station in Italy with certain capacity. No, it's not mentioned, but yes, that is also there. All right, so we have next up is your hydroelectric energy, and once another, I think 10 minutes, I'll finish off this, and that's where I can close and take your questions. All right, so just bear with me another 10 minutes, some 7, 8, 10 minutes, and I'll be closing that. Hydroelectric energy, I mean, that's a simple and straight source of energy. We all know though, but still I'll quickly scan through these slides. Layout of idle power plant, as we all understand, there is this dam that is constructed. Upstream we have the huge storage of water, and the height of the dam is pretty high. We have maybe in 1000 plus feet of the water body available on the upstream. And inside the hydropower plant, say if we have the reservoir, this is the dam, and then there is a generator, which is there's this turbine that is being that's coupled with that is a generator, and through the penstock, which is a penstock, the water is coming at a pressure, striking these blades of the turbine, which in turn rotates, and that in turn rotates the generator, and we have the electricity generated. That's the whole idea of it. Location of hydropower plants obviously is to be generally onto the rivers, right? And that too on those rivers that are the large dams, if you talk of, then that are perennial, that are flowing all through the year. And then it could be local streams also, maybe small rivulets. High pressure water sources also could be the sources wherein you can have the dams constructed. Working of hydroelectric power plant, if you see, there's I think there's a video, I believe. All right, so quickly let me show that also. I think this is without audio. There is this water, from the reservoir flowing in through this penstock. It's a huge pipe, in fact, maybe many meters of dia. This water strikes the turbine blades. That in turn is coupled with a genset which rotates the generator rotor, and that in turn generates electricity, and the water then goes down the drain through this pipe and flows out, and that's made use for irrigation purposes and all other purposes. Right, that's the simplest animation video that I thought, okay, I can fit in here. All right, so this electricity source generated then is taken through a transformer and stepped up on certain voltage levels, transmitted through, and being made use of wherever at distant places. We do have many dams in our country. All right, so that's the animation of the silent one, though you might not have liked this that much, but yes, it is still informative. Okay, so hydropower global capacity says of top 6 countries and rest of the world. Which are the top 6 countries in hydropower? China with 28% share of it. 28% of the total hydropower available in the world is with China. United States 9%, Canada 9%, Brazil 9%, India 4% of the total world power. Russian Federation 4%, the rest of the world 40%. I mean, look at the China. It's still, again, a leading country in hydropower.
Thank you, sir. And on behalf of the Institute, we would like to offer you a memento as a token of respect for being a part of this talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure being there with you and talking to you. And thank you, Dr. Chauhan. All right, I take leave and see you some other time. Okay, all participants, thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much, sir.